Hi everyone, we are from Group 2 want to present the status of paddy and rice in Malaysia. My name is Novetu Iza binti Suhaimi, metric number 263607, and I want to present the world rice situation. Asia is synonymous with rice. In 2017, over 80% of the world's rice was consumed by countries in Asia, and demand is expected to continue to increase. The region consumes more than 80% of the world rice, as rice is the staple food for most countries in Asia. In reality, the five largest producers of rice worldwide are also the five largest consumers of rice in the world, namely China, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. As the population continues to expand, future rice demand is expected to rise from the already high level of rice consumption. As such, on the back of this rising demand, countries in Asia have always been concerned with acquiring a sufficient supply of rice. Part Malaysia rice production. Malaysia primarily relies on main granary area for domestic paddy production. Around 70% of the domestic supply originates from the granary regions. The performance of the national production of paddy is therefore also a reflection of the performance of the granary area in Malaysia. With regard to the sector, paddy production and the supply of rice to customers should not be treated as separate entities but as a set of interconnected segments within the supply chain model. Since the 1960, Malaysia rice production has increased as almost stopped in 2009, in contrast to only 0.75 million tons in the 960 over 1.6 million tons of rice were grown. For Asia, the ASEAN country, the third price control subsidies, tariff and buffer stock rice in Malaysia is safe. In order to balance the domestic price of forward price volatility, buffer stock are used. The government has raised the rice stockpile from 192,000 MT to 262,000 MT since the rice crisis in 2008. This is to ensure greater self-sufficiency level for different types of subsidies and benefit. The government allocate 1.74 billion during 2009. In addition, the government was in possession of retail rate for 5, 10 and 20% bulk rice. Despite being a member of the ASEAN Free Trade Area and the World Trade Organization WTO, since it is included in the list of highly sensitive goods, the third government still imposed high import duty of rice. Okay, for part issues and challenges of the industry is, firstly, the challenges is the reduction in paddy fields due to the transfer of land use for non-agricultural or non-paddy agricultural purpose is a significant threat to the prospect of national food security. And the second is the issue is the environmental changes such as climate change are impacting rice production, and climate change has emerged as a major concern for environmentally and economically vulnerable countries. The effect of climate change on crop production in many countries around the world is harming infrastructure, impacting food price, and rising dependence on import of food aid. Okay, for third is the issues and challenges in this industry is food prices have been growing over the years, but in recent years they have accelerated. The rising price of food eats into the income and investment of people across the globe. Several factors including higher energy and fertilizer prices, higher global demands, drought, the loss of arable land to biofuel plantation and price speculation have been blamed for the price rise.
Hi, my name is Nafara Amirah binti Muhammad Kasim. My metric number is 263687. I would like to present my part. Okay, firstly, agriculture plan, policies and scenarios. There are two phases in Malaysia agriculture policies that include pre-independence and post-independence. The pre-independence is emphasis in plantation crops such as rubber, oil palm, and cocoa. For the post-independence policy, they are formulated to steer the sector's growth in two main areas such as agriculture for domestic interests as well as export crops. Next is production per capita and production per HA. The constraint and issue of sustainable production such as wheat competition, especially red rice, shortage of labor, high production costs and others. The granary area have expanded into 10, which is the largest granary area is Mada. A total parcel of 100,603 HA in Mada was planted with paddy, producing a total of 1.1 mt of paddy at a yield of 5.3 mt per HA. On 2016 data, in Malaysia, about 194931 farmers have produced a total 2.7 mt of paddy from around 68,000 mt of seeds. Once harvested, the paddy grains were sold to 157 millers at a guaranteed minimum price GMP of 1,200 ringgit per mt, where they were processed into 1.8 mt of rice and subsequently distributed through retail stores via 1660 active wholesalers. Next is consumption per capita. It does not only include the consumption of rice as human food like rice flour, steamed rice and rice noodles, but it is also in non-food consumption such as cosmetics, animals feeds and others. From the late 1990s to early 2008, an initial decrease of rice consumption per capita that the consumption's level have been recorded a rise up in 2003 and the trend has hovered over above 80 kg per person per year. Based on dietary diversification in Malaysia, rice is remaining as the main source of carbohydrate. Rice is the most needed source for Malaysian because carbohydrate is the nation's staple food comparing to wheat. Next is export and import of paddy in Malaysia. Indonesia is the largest producer and consumer of paddy and rice industry in SEA region. Thailand and Vietnam are the world of exported rice, while Malaysia rely on imports to meet the national requirement. Malaysia has almost stable trend of rice production, rice SSL, and harvested area in 2000 to 2006. Upon harvesting, paddy grains are sold to the miller either directly by the farmers or through brokers. The millers will grade the paddy, purchase it at a price that is equal or higher than the grade minimum price GMP and process the paddy into rice. Not all the meal paddy will be converted into rice. Self-sufficiency level SSL. Malaysia is still a net importer of rice with the SSL hovering between 60% to 70%. The goal of Malaysia rice policy is always targeting a high SSL. The nation SSL fluctuated between 60% to 80% since 2000. However, the nation was not able to increase the rice SSL to 100%. Many countries in Asia use rice SSL as the indicator for food security and the basis of policy design. This is because the interests of country political and national security that have been able to provide staple food for the citizen. However, by using SSL to measure the nation food security is not sufficient because it is only show the availability factor, not the truth status of the nation food security. Therefore, Malaysia have two tools that used to measure the food security status. It is named as Global Food Security Index (GFSI) and the Rice Bowl Index (RBI). It is about GDP of Malaysia. Malaysia is the popular and always import the rice. The net importer of Malaysia is same status with Philippines and Indonesia. The total import of rice from Malaysia is 821,869 MT, and the total of export rice is recorded as 45421 MT. The amount of the result of net import is 776448 MT. Malaysia have also export rice to Indonesia that the total of export is 89.6%. The gross domestic product of Malaysia is in 2016 was RM1196.4B, while the other agriculture such as forestry and fisheries sectors contribute only RM106.5B. However, the palm oil industry have stated the biggest contributed only RM2.4B or 2.3%. Other crises, pandemic COVID-19 and irrigation land also affected to the paddy rice industry. The crisis that affected the paddy and rice industry in Malaysia is lack of employment and labor force shortage in this sector. Many young generation nowadays achieve a good levels and demand on having a good jobs that guarantee them to get good salary. This situation have led the farmers to discontinue the rice farming and have to reduce the labor supply for farming operations. The lack of land is also the crisis affected the paddy and rice industry. The limitation of land available for agriculture is because many land has been used for industrial urbanization and expansion of residential area. Irrigation is always associated with proper water resources, mainly from river and rainfall. Although Malaysia is rich in waters, there are certain dry months in May and August where water can be dropped, creating that called agricultural drought. The COVID-19 pandemic has also given rise up to the fears of an imminent economic crisis and recession. The pandemic has a significant impact on Malaysia agricultural industry, especially on paddy sector, as the country import 40% of their consumption from different countries. The impact of climate change certainly troubling its agricultural sector and especially rice, a staple food of the nation, such as an recession corresponds with the result of various studies which signify that impacts of climate change would significantly affect Malaysia paddy yield. Next is varieties of paddy. Through the nation key economic area NKEA and 3-point project 14 seed industry development, the National Seed Council NSC was established in 2011 under the MOA and converts twice a year. The protection to the new paddy's variety is to give proprietary right to the breeder of new variety. The procedure is suitable with the Protection of New Plant Varieties Act 2004. If any other party wants to supply and commercially breed the new variety of paddy, they need to pay the royalties to the breeder. This term have been set by the breeder of the new. The cost of production is high without subsidies. The net profit from paddy cultivation in 2014 of Mada stood at RM2892 per HA per season, and this is affected by the COP at RM3766 per HA per season. Land rental and machinery are the largest contribution to the COP at 42% and 30% respectively, while input and labor costs contributed less. Mada farmers with input subsidies are competitive as key rice growing region in China, Philippines, Thailand, and Indonesia. However, if subsidies have been removed, the net profit of Mada to be lower than the key rice growing region in the countries mentioned. Okay, that's all for my part. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nur Atikah binti Mazlan. My matric number 261CS9. Today I want to talk about agriculture policy, rice and paddy related policy. Okay, agriculture policy is the law related to domestic agriculture and the importance of agriculture products from foreign countries. It also related to natural resources management, input and access to technology and production. The government implement agriculture policy with the aim of achieving outcome in the domestic agriculture product market. After independence, Malaysia have 4 agriculture policy, which are National Agriculture Policy, Policy 1, 2 and 3, and the National Agro-Food Policy. Okay, the first policy is the first National Agriculture Policy. It was found in 1984. This policy was established to address the issue of the imbalanced income between commercial and traditional farmer and rural poverty. It also was important in transformation and development Malaysia economy. The second policy is the second National Agriculture Policy. This policy was the extension of the NAP1. It also aimed to face the challenge of agriculture sector, in particular demand for agro-food product in domestic and global market. Okay, the third policy is the third National Agriculture Policy. This policy is a revised version of NAP2. It was formulated when the government realized the effect of the 1997 to 1998 ASEAN financial crisis, AFC, and the liberation of Malaysia economy. The third National Agriculture Policy introduced 2 new strategy approach, namely the agroforestry approach and the product-based approach. Okay, the fourth policy is the National Agro-Food Policy. The National Agro-Food Policy has combined strategies that are in line with the nutritional exhibition of the food system. Okay, agency involved in paddy production in Malaysia. Okay, the first we have Ministry of Agriculture, MOA. It also known as Kementerian Pertanian dan Industri Asas Tani in Malay term. The Ministry of Agriculture was restructured and renamed Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry on March 27, 2004, and the name remained unchanged until today. Okay, the second agency is Federal Land Consolidation and Rehabilitation Authority, FELCRA, was established in 1966. Its objective is to develop rural sector by helping its community to participate in national economic activity, thus to improving their standard of living. Okay, the third is Department of Agriculture, DOA. It is empowered to conduct research and development studies on various agriculture disciplines concerning crop and farm mechanization, provide service of the analysis, inspection, quality inspection, and certification to facilitate both domestic and international trade. The fourth agency is Malaysian Agriculture Research and Development Institute (MARDI). It is a government body in Malaysia under Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-based Industry. It also generates and promotes new strategies, appropriate and efficient technologies for the advancements of the Malaysia food industry, agro-based industry and agriculture.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Munirah binti Ahmad Zan, 263505. Will be presenting the next part, types of climate change affecting paddy sector. Generally, the impact of climate change on Malaysia paddy sector focusing on the main 8 cannery areas in Malaysia, which are Mada at Kedah and Perlis, Kada at Kelantan, Ketara at Terengganu, and IADP areas at Pulau Pinang, Keren, Sungai Manek, Barat Laut Selangor, Seberang Perak, and Kemasin Semarak. Abnormal climate change has decreased the rice yields and threatened our food security. So, there are certain types of climate change affecting paddy sector. First is higher temperature. Higher temperature uniformly happen throughout the year. Mainly happens during the paddy crop going through flowering and grain filling phases. So, happen a decreasing rice yields as they can make rice flowers sterile and no grain is produced. Second is increasing carbon dioxide (CO2) level. There are studies stated upcoming future increasing CO2 likely to benefit rice production by increasing photosynthesis while reducing water needed. However, the increasing temperature is leading the growth of effects of CO2. Plus, higher respiration losses linked to higher temperature also make rice less productive. So, happen adverse impact on paddy productivity in warm tropical with higher CO2 level. Third is drought. Happen especially in low-lying areas with improper irrigation and drainage systems. For example, a drought had led to a decline in paddy production from 1.21 million metric tons to 1.20 million metric tons in 2010. So, drought is a threat to national rice security and economic contribution in the agriculture sector. Lastly, floods. Floods are one of the most common threats to paddy sector. Monsoon floods continuously bring damages to paddy production. Peaks of high rainfall frequently occur at the west coast and the central region in Peninsular Malaysia at the end of the year from October to November and sometimes lasted until the beginning of the year. So, this natural disaster has been caused serious losses to the farmers and nation rice security. Therefore, there are ways to overcome the climate change by created mitigation and adaptation plans. Firstly, policy implementation, re-evaluation and reconfiguration of existing and future economic policies. For example, the government implemented the 10 Malaysia Plan at 2010 to create initiatives and strategies that focus on the improvement of research and development, including the existing infrastructures. Plus, other new policies focus on ensuring this national food security and raising the income of farmers. Second, upgrading a non-granary area to granary area. Government should consider a non-granary area to be equipped with recent technologies to build a new granary area to keep up the loss of rice stock damage. For example, upgraded facilities, infrastructure, and new high-quality resistant hybrid paddy varieties may enhance the way in facing the challenge of climate change. So, furthermore, new adapted crop management training provided from farmers, such as land preparation, seeding, and harvesting, are important to increase the level of efficiency. Third, water-saving technology, which is tolerant to water stress, should be developed. For example, an advanced local irrigation scheme is effective in countering water shortage during the dry season. Plus, may minimize the impacts of rainfall variation on paddy yield. Lastly, new paddy breeds. Adapting the impact of climate change by initiate a research and development of new temperature-tolerant, high-yielding paddy breeds. For example, hybrid breed that tolerant to water stress has already been developed. Plus, Mardi also testing many imported hybrid paddy varieties as well as trying to breed our own. Farmers also gradually train to adopt a new paddy breeds. Next part is rice and paddy economics feasibility. First is cost of production. Cost of production in paddy sector included the farm management practices, land price, inputs, and labor. Effort to maximize the yield by minimizing the cost is inflexible, as generally many aging farmers working on paddy production instead of the younger generation. Also, actively involve a common challenges like climate change impacts, pests, and out-of-date infrastructure. Plus, farming at fragmented and small land size, leading to higher costs of production. Mada reported that land rental is the largest contributory factor and has been increasing over the years. For example, in 2014, the cost of land rental is the biggest, which is 1591 ringgit 0.98 cent per hectare of the total cost of paddy production in Mada. So, feasibility of cost in paddy production is indeterminate, as always happen either increase or decrease each year. Supplier of land or landlords may help to control increases in cost production. Second is yield. The paddy yield feasibility is imprecise as generally quite far from achieving the maximum possible yield. Low yield is the common issue faced by paddy farmers over the years. Mostly paddy farmers are older people with an average age above 50. Based on rice yield comparison in the Southeast Asia region, in 2016 data, Malaysia is the second lower for rice yield at 2.5 of metric ton per hectare. The paddy production might produce maximum yield by using high-performing paddy breed varieties, advanced facilities, and effective management practices, but unfortunately hard to achieve as the farmers is older generation. Third is subsidy. Mainly type of subsidies needed by paddy farmers is fertilizer subsidy. So, paddy production costs are higher if there is no fertilizer benefit given. For example, the current government subsidies per hectare of paddy is 240 kg of granular chemical-based fertilizers that worth 600 ringgit. Another example, NPK fertilizer does give a significant impact of the yield, which is happen a decline in yield obtained in 2016 with 3.081 metric ton per hectare, whereby the yield was 4.052 metric ton per hectare in 2015 as a result of removal of an NPK fertilizer subsidy by the government. So, in policy implication stated that paddy production cannot be sustained without fertilizer subsidy. Lastly is productivity. However, the paddy production's productivity is excellent as consumption of rice in Malaysia has increased consistently since the 1990s. In 2005, rice increased roughly to 9.7% due to opening of new regions for rice production. But now the rice production is not able to meet the domestic demand as only produced by 70% of its total rice requirement, and the rest 30% is imported from Thailand, Vietnam, and Pakistan. As happens scarcity, like population growth and nations' lack of self.
Hi, my name is Mike Atelius Michael. My metric number is 2637119. I will continue to the application of linear programming or other related theories in BAA 3113, which is marginal physical production, average physical production, the three stages of production, productivity, and efficiency. As you can see, this tree table is a set of data that were taken from 1990 until 2017 to show the area harvested, yield, marginal physical product, and the average physical product of rice paddy field plantation in Malaysia. Now I will talk about the stages of production. Okay, the stages of production is the classical production function can be divided into three stages. For production, stage 1 is the phase of increasing production efficiency. Stage 1 is the phase of increasing production efficiency based on the table above. The production efficiency is not to show the maximum production level. This efficiency is known as the average physical product or APP, and it's determined by dividing yield by its corresponding amount of inputs, which is the area harvested. The table of data is taken from 1990 until 2017 to show the maximum production of rice paddy in Malaysia throughout the year. According to the table 3, the stage 1, which is the Y and X, is the largest, around 2.6 yield in metric ton. The second stages of production, which is the second stage, is the physical efficiency of the variable at the peak of the beginning of the stages 2. Stages 2 is the physical efficiency of the variable input is at the peak at the beginning of stages 2. That will end when yield or total physical product is at maximum and when it's going to be at the bottom line. The maximum efficiency does not equal to the maximum production. This will be shown according to the table 3 where the data is shown the physical product or yield and the average physical product of rice paddy production in Malaysia. The last stages of production, which is the third stage. In the third stage, it will show the production will start once the total physical products start to decline. This is the result of excessive quantities of variable input combined with the fixed input, which is the yield. According to the table and graph shown, the production of rice paddy in Malaysia throughout the year 1990 until 2017, the maximum production of rice paddy is at 2013, that has the highest total of yield. Although the production of rice paddy in Malaysia is still continuous, the maximum value is not yet determined, but the data can be shown that production of rice paddy can reach to its peak in production. Next, I will continue to talk about productivity. With the result of the stages of production, we can see the productivity of rice paddy in Malaysia. But first of all, what is productivity? Productivity described as various measure of efficiency of production. It is a measure to express as a ratio of an aggregate output to a single or an aggregate input used in production process. For example, the output per unit per input is typically over a specific period of time. Crucial factor in production performance of firms and nations. Production also is to show the productivity of rice paddy in Malaysia on the effectiveness of productive effort, especially in industry, as measured in terms of rate of output per unit of input. There are two things we can see in productivity, which is perfect certainty and the level of technology. First, the perfect certainty. The perfect certainty is the complete outcome of each unit of input that must have been agreed upon economists and the farmers. It is also a planning device is needed in order to increase the productivity of rice paddy in Malaysia. The Ministry of Agriculture in Malaysia and also the Research Center of Agriculture in Malaysia developed a new type of hybrid paddy that has higher resistance to disease, a shorter time to fully grow, and a new type of fertilizer. Next is the level of technology. A lot of technology that has been used in rice paddy farming, such as drone fertilizer, crop harvester, and plantation. This is to make the production of rice paddy in Malaysia to become faster and more efficient. The level of technology is of course determined by the government itself, because the technology will help the production of rice paddy in Malaysia. That's all for me. Thank you.